Hey.
Hey,
I think we are live, Zachary.
we are live.
Oh, we got him.
We got him.
Got him. We
Well.
are live.
Well. Welcome to the first ever live
Live
stream, live episode, I should
of
say,
the KingSmith
of the
podcast.
KingSmith podcast.
Wait, watch this. Watch this. Boom! We got that music going.
KingSmith podcast. We are your hosts. I am Zach. That is Nathan.
You got that right, I am.
I hope you are. We're gonna have problems.
This is true.
And this is. I know we announced a few episodes ago that we weren't really gonna do anything like special, like for season premieres and stuff. But we kind of wanted to test this out. Didn't we?
Oh, we wanted to test this out, and I think we're doing a pretty good job so far.
I think we are doing a pretty good job.
What's up, Ringo Hulk 777?
Yeah, we know who you are.
We know who all of you are.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if this is gonna be a permanent change. It's gonna
Oh, it's gonna be a fun one for a little bit.
It's gonna be a fun one for a little bit. It's gonna depend a lot on scheduling for us. If we can get
This is true.
Like a day of the week where we can just sit down and live.
Right.
But just so you guys know, this isn't the only change we're gonna do. We have some other fun things that we want to do with the podcast, with the channel, with the brand.
Yeah, we do.
Hallelujah. We're expanding.
Yeah, we are.
So if you haven't shared this with your friends already, do
Do
it.
it right now. Ringo, do it.
Or else.
I know who you are too. Yeah. I see you, bro.
Or else.
I'm looking at you.
We're gonna be very sadness.
We'll be sad, and I know where you live. So, I'm kidding.
And we're kidding.
Mostly.
Anyway.
Yeah.
This is also a very special episode.
This is a very special episode.
Welcome to
Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday.
Yeah. At what? 9:30 at night.
Yeah. We are living this on Palm Sunday, and roughly, if we were alive about 2,000 years ago, if we were alive basically during the time of Jesus, and approximately, I did the math one year, and I'm gonna guesstimate now because I don't remember what it was. It was a Palm Sunday, and I did the math, and I don't remember what it is when I did it or what it is right now.
Okay.
So I'm gonna guesstimate roughly 5-ish days, give or take a few hours. In roughly 5-ish days, about 4-ish days is when the trial of Jesus would take place, and roughly 5-ish days is when he would be about hanging on the cross. 4.5-ish.
Something like
It's that's a guesstimation.
some conglomeration.
Some guesstimation, approximation, whatever you want to call it.
It's an Asian.
So today, as we said, is Palm Sunday. So today would have been the triumphal entry.
Yep, today would have been the entry. People wouldn't have understood what was going on.
People laying palm leaves down on this road. In some cases, they're like overcoats down on the street for the donkey to walk on.
Donkey.
Excuse me, I burped into my mic.
Congratulations.
That's not the last time that's gonna happen.
That's also not the first time that something like that's happened on this podcast.
No, but
First time live.
First time live. First time for everything. Anyway, but yeah, and in our rough guesstimation, and when I say rough, it's very rough.
It's rough. It's fetch with rough man.
It's yeah. Oh, that's a throwback.
Did your back just like go out on you there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. And roughly 5 days, the people who today are saying Hosanna and praising Jesus are going to be shouting, "Crucify! Crucify him!"
It's mob mentality.
Give us Barabbas.
It's mob mentality.
It really is. But
the mob is always right. Oh
no,
wait, no.
In this case,
In the-
Nathaniel, they are very,
Most
very,
of the time, mobs are wrong.
they
Mob
are
mentality
very
is not
wrong
good.
right now.
They didn't know how wrong they were.
No. They're gonna find out though. Believe
they
me.
already did. They know.
They know. Anyway,
They know.
so this episode we're gonna do a little bit of not only recognizing Palm Sunday for what it is, but we're gonna do a little bit of the events that lead up to the crucifixion.
Yes.
And to the resurrection. And next week, hopefully if we can record and we're live this again, hopefully we'll talk about the actual resurrection itself.
I mean, yeah.
That's
is the
an
goal.
important. That's an important part.
I mean, without the resurrection.
All of this is pointless.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Wait, was that Romans or 1 Corinthians?
It was Paul. It was Paul.
It was in there.
It was
It
Paul.
made it in the book.
We do that with the teens a lot. We were just
Right.
like,
Like,
I'm
which
pretty
one is
sure-
it?
I'm pretty sure Paul is the one who wrote it. I
The
can't.
originator.
Yeah. Anyway, it was written by the Spirit, so
It's in there somewhere.
it's in the Bible.
You can Google it if you really need to.
Yeah.
Forgive us for not being total
Right.
geniuses 24/7.
But I want to take this episode specifically to talk about the events that lead up to the resurrection.
Yes.
Because
Because it's crazy.
while the events of while the resurrection itself is important, I think it's only like half the story.
Well, it really. I mean, you're correct. It really only is half of the story.
So
Let's see. What chapter are you in on, John?
I'm in John 17.
John 17. He's got the priestly prayer.
Yeah, this is. I'm gonna start. So, yeah, we're in John 17.
Uh-huh. Also, you might see me looking down a lot. I have my iPad going.
Yeah. You
And
might see me looking down a lot. I have
camera-
my actual Bible going.
hey,
I'm not
mine's
some
got
tech
notes. Mine's got notes.
Mine's got notes too.
interactive notes.
You suck.
You're welcome.
Anyway, so John 17 is the prayer at Gethsemane, right?
Yes, it is.
And I don't know if we're gonna read any. We'll probably will.
I mean, I would hope we would read the Bible on a Bible podcast.
Ish.
It's a Christian podcast
Yes.
that we talk about random things.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting prayer, Nathan.
Okay.
Why do you think I say this is an interesting prayer?
I mean, he knows what's about to happen here. It's a very intimate look at Jesus talking with his Father right before he gets betrayed, I believe. Yeah, right before.
Right before, right.
Literally moments before.
And like I said, today, present day, it's Palm Sunday. It's the day commonly held where before Jesus is crucified, people are laying palm leaves down their jackets or
Mhm.
whatever's,
Mm-hmm.
and they're praising God.
Yeah,
The Pharisees get all mad
because they're Pharisees.
because they are like, hey, they shouldn't be praising you, and Jesus is
Where?
like, if they don't, the rocks will.
I mean, yeah. And then, wait a minute. Maybe I'm thinking of two different passages here at the same time, I think. What he's talking with Peter, and he changes his name.
That's
where I will build his rock on this church. That's
yeah,
a different.
that's a different passage.
Yep.
But that is a good passage. as
That's a
well.
great passage
That's a
too,
great
but I'm getting
passage.
jumbled.
You're getting jumbled.
I've been Bible fried today.
Yeah.
The kids were asking us like crazy questions in
So-
youth group.
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So we're going through Job with the kids in youth group right now, and they asked some pretty deep questions. And
They were great questions,
They were
but
great
boy, my
questions.
brain is zapped.
The kids always ask good questions, and then we're like, let me get back to you on that.
Right. Yeah, there was a fair amount of that going on.
Right. Anyway, so why do you think this prayer in John 17 is unique, Nathan?
Well, it's the Lord.
So-
It's the Lord saying, "I've completed the job that you've actually given me to do." And so now it's like transitioning into
This is the final step.
this is what's about to happen.
See, is it in this one or is it?
I'm trying to find it. I think we're looking for the same thing. He really prays for a lot of the people, too.
Right.
Are you looking for the "take this cup away from me" passage?
Yeah.
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 That's what I was trying to look for too. I don't think it's in this one though.
No, you're right.
Let me
Um,
go before here. I'll keep looking for it while you talk.
Yeah. So that is certainly one aspect of it. He prays for his disciples that they would be able to complete the task that he has set them on, and that the Father would help them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also a very bitter prayer too, or a very heavy prayer.
Yeah.
'Cause it's not in this gospel, but it is reported that Jesus was sweating blood
Yes.
as he was praying. Not crying blood, not, he didn't have a cut on his arm. He was sweating blood
Mm-hmm.
because of what was about to happen.
He knew what was going down.
And
Imagine being the Almighty, and you know what's going to happen, and you can
Right.
already feel what's
And-
going to happen, but you're still locked in like present time. That had to
Right.
be been
And-
torture.
I said this to the kids tonight, and I will repeat it. The hypostatic union, there's a $5 word for you.
Oh my goodness.
The hypostatic union of Jesus being 100% man and 100% God. We aren't really clear. We don't know exactly how that works.
Right. Right.
It's not clear how it's not. I don't want to say halves because it's not like he's a half and half.
Well,
I don't want to say parts because I don't think that.
It's Luke 22. Sorry.
Luke 22.
Luke 22, 42.
No, you're good. But it's weird because I don't think there's a word in the language that encapsulate what it is.
Yeah.
It's
the camera.
Oops.
There we go.
It's,
Sorry, guys.
I'll say it this way.
Uh-huh.
We don't know exactly how Jesus being fully human and fully God,
Mm-hmm.
how those natures interacted.
Well, there's a good way. Charles Spurgeon and I don't agree on a lot of things.
Of course.
Not Charles Spurgeon. I'm sorry. R.C. Sproul. Charles Spurgeon and I agree on many things. R.C. Sproul and I don't. Even though he's dead.
I dropped the lid to my drink.
Nice. But R.C. Sproul put it this way. He likes to say, truly God, truly man.
Right.
Which, from what I've seen, I think that's actually a more accurate representation.
Right.
I could be completely out of left field on that one too, so I'm willing to be
No, that
correctable
makes
there.
sense.
But if you say truly God, truly man, it kind of fits a couple pieces together because it's like, what are you, God man? Are you a demigod? Are you a what? Like, what are you?
Right.
But if you say it was truly God and truly man, well, that means okay, he was actually a person with the Spirit of God.
Uh-huh.
Now that also goes back to how do you look at how sin was passed on? Well, sin was passed on through the male, and so, which I think is correct. I think that's a correct interpretation. What was that, Genesis 4 or 3?
Right.
No, it's not in the fall. Maybe it is. I'm sorry.
It's
My brain's scrambled right now,
right.
but it's there. So like I with Mary being a virgin. Oh, did you turn it off?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
With Mary being a virgin, and Jesus being born of a virgin, it's a lot easier for truly God, truly man to work because the
Right.
flesh would be perfect,
Exactly.
giving an eligible vessel of perfection to take the sacrifice. But given
Right.
that it's the Spirit of God is what can defeat death and Satan. The flesh couldn't do it.
Right.
Even perfected flesh couldn't do it.
Exactly.
So that's something that's something creepy to think about, but
Hey.
not necessarily, I guess, because the flesh, when God created the heavens and the earth, it wasn't built into the system that we would have to rise from the dead
Right.
because death didn't exist. So even if flesh is perfect,
right.
if it dies, it still dies.
Exactly.
And so it's an awkward intersection, but saying truly God, truly man really helps with that.
Right.
Does that make more sense?
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
And I think we actually agree on a point I brought up to the kids. Is I brought this up to them that, and this is another weird part of the intersection because
Right.
you're
It's
like,
a really weird intersection.
It's a really weird intersection because he's truly God, but he's truly man.
Right.
So what? How the heck does some of this work? And I had this this question posed to me while I was at Calvary.
Yeah.
And did Jesus have the capability to sin? And I was like, yes and no.
Yes, but actually no.
Yes, but actually no.
It's completely against his nature. If he did sin, he wouldn't be God.
Right.
That's what would happen.
That's what would happen.
That's why Satan was trying to tempt him.
Right.
Them 40 days.
So yeah, I was just like,
because if Jesus falls, God's done.
Right. Technically speaking, Satan tempting him proves that that at least at some level, Satan thought he had the capability of sinning, but he's also like true, like you said, truly God. So he didn't.
It's not gonna happen.
So it's not gonna happen.
Right.
So
it's a really awkward intersection.
It's a really awkward part of that. Like, yes.
What would happen? Boy, that's something fun to kind of spitball. Like, what would happen if God sinned?
Shut up.
Okay, Siri. Hey, Siri, stop. Watch, we get like copyright strike because my smart speaker started playing in the background.
Might want to check that later.
We'll be okay. The gain isn't high enough for that.
Anyway, but yeah, that's just a really weird intersection of, the temptation is completely. The temptation was completely useless regardless.
Right.
Because he's God. He's not gonna. And I said it this way, and he kind of gave me a weird face. And this is just a weird part of the.
I wasn't paying attention fully at that point in time.
This is just another weird part of Jesus being truly, keep saying, truly God and truly man. He is truly man. So this is gonna sound weird, but I'll try and explain it the best way I can. Jesus, the man, could sin, but Jesus, God, couldn't.
It's like a weird. So I see what you're saying with
it.
It's more like the flesh itself had the capability that was demonstrated in Adam.
Right.
But the thing about like the mind is willing or the soul is willing but the flesh is weak.
Right.
Well, thankfully God's soul could overpower
the flesh.
The desire of the flesh. So in that regard, you're absolutely correct. But it's like it's God. It's never gonna happen.
Like if it's like that's why I say yes and no. The capability is there, technically speaking, but it's not gonna happen
Right.
because that's not how this works.
If God, boy, that would be so trippy. If God sins, Satan becomes the ultimate ruler.
Right.
But does God still have all his power?
Yeah, technically.
Would he?
Well,
There
I
would
don't
be
know.
things that he would have to forfeit
there would be things. Right.
because he wouldn't be
That's another episode, dude.
he wouldn't be able to save people.
Right. Well, lucky for us, he didn't sin, so we don't have to worry about.
It's just I'm sorry.
That's,
It's just a
that's
fun
it.
thing that I like to spitball about.
That's a trippy thing, but yeah. So, and that's just something I've come to that conclusion about.
Shoot me when I'm being heretical.
What?
Okay, anyways, so
yeah.
now that we have completely derailed from the original topic.
Well, I think this is important to understanding what we're saying here.
Right.
Jesus is. So we talked about Jesus. So God is the only one who really can accomplish this mission.
Right.
And for me, the reason I bring up the truly God, the hypostatic union,
Mm-hmm.
or the reason I brought it up initially was, I was gonna say that it's trippy to think, because the Bible says Jesus grew in wisdom. So in my mind, this might be heretical, but the way I interpret that, and this is just Zach talking. This is not.
That's okay. I'm listening.
This is not any way. If I'm wrong, Ringo, you can comment. Nathan can slap me across the face with a microphone. But this is the way I interpret it: is there were certain abilities that Jesus did not have access to growing up.
That he'd what? Sorry.
There are certain. In my mind, there are certain abilities that Jesus did not have growing up.
I think it was more like he, not necessarily forfeit, but
Right.
he just it's like hitting a disable switch on your phone.
Right, or turning it. It's like a light switch.
Yeah,
turning it
like
off and on.
you just didn't do it.
Right.
But then as
So.
time grew and we went on, like he
Right.
basically put himself into human mode, but perfect.
Right. And I bring that.
But he was a crying baby who had to poop and had to have his butt
Right.
wiped,
and
just like all of us.
Right. And I bring that up to say, I don't know when exactly Jesus knew. Like I don't know that he knew as a baby, but I think he knew. Like when Mary and Joseph
Right.
lose him in the temple, I think Jesus knew.
No, he knew by then.
He knew by then.
Well, he had to have.
He would have had to, but I don't know when that he turned that on and was like, okay.
Well, he probably did as soon as. Ooh, this gets into age of an accountability type thing. I think by the time that you would have hit the age of accountability is when that would have happened. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
I think that's when it would have happened.
That actually kind of fits with what I was saying. I'm just like, I don't know when this happened.
Or maybe God the Father was just like, all right, look at.
Right.
Remember me? We created the world.
It's like that one scene in Hercules, where she was just like, hey, I'm your
Dude,
dad, by the way.
Imagine being the Trinity, but like one of you's a baby.
That had to be awkward.
Man, I would have been so annoyed.
Imagine being John the Baptist. I'm going to reference another comedian. I love watching comedy skits. If you want a top three, Brad Stein, at least for Christian comedians, Brad Stein, Michael Jr., and Tim Hawkins.
Right.
Not necessarily in that order.
Right.
They fluctuate depending on my mood, but Michael Jr. has this thing where he's just like, what was it like for John the Baptist to baptize Jesus?
That'd have been awkward.
Because for us, it's in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, right?
Right.
Jesus walks into the baptismal You, your daddy, your best friend. That's
Yeah,
that's
that
how
is
Michael
kinda
Jr.
what
put it.
is. The name of you,
Your
and,
dad.
and the dove, and the big bright guy. I now pronounce you man and wife. No, I mean, my dad almost did that once during a baptism. This is like
I would have paid
this
to
was
see
like
that.
10 years ago. He was baptizing somebody, and I think it was in a creek. But he went to go baptize them, and he couldn't think of the right words. So he goes, buried with them in baptism. And then he, like, thankfully the lady was, like, a little bit heavier set. And so, like, he kind of struggled to, like, pull her up. But he was, like, he kind of used that as a cover to, like, remember, like, what he was saying. But he almost said, I now pronounce you man and wife when he pulled her up.
Well,
But after a
technically-
second, he was like, buried with the baptism, raised to walk in newness of life.
we're technically called the bride of Christ, which makes me feel weird, but you know.
Well, I mean, that's not like, but that's not, baptism isn't that time when that happens.
Fair
that's
enough. Yeah, I'm just saying.
Salvation time.
Anyway,
Yeah.
let's stop derailing.
Hey, but to underail us, that Luke 22,
Right.
I'll start in verse 39. I think you're going to really like this. I think
Right.
this is going to tie into what you're saying. So he came out and proceeded, as was custom, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. And when he arrived at the place, he said to them, pray that you may not enter temptation. Now, Matthew actually expounds upon the temptation stuff. But if we go back to Luke,
I keep dropping the lid on my drink. I don't know what's wrong with me.
that's okay. So he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, and he knelt down and began to pray, saying, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done. Now an angel from heaven appeared to him, strengthening him. And being in agony, he was praying very fervently, and his sweat became like drops of blood falling down upon the ground. And when he rose from the prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping from sorrow. And he says to them, why are you sleeping? Get up and pray that you may not enter into temptation.
Imagine being Jesus. Like, you're sitting here in, like, total agony, sweating drops of blood. You get up, go check on your disciples, and they
Yeah.
asleep.
Yeah.
Just like,
It's crazy.
he's like, Dad, what? I picked them again.
Man, if I were him, I'd be so mad.
I'm just like, and he's just like, why are you sleeping?
It is a real thing, though. They call it hematohydrosis. Hematohydrosis.
Oh, is that the sweat and blood thing?
Yeah, that's the sweat and blood. But it says it may occur in an individual. This is from NCBI, by the way, so it's legit. May occur in an individual who is suffering from extreme levels of stress. Various causative factors have been suggested, like a component of systemic disease, vicarious menstruation, excessive exertion, psychogenic, and unknown causes.
Wow.
So
There's
he was
a-
going through a few of those right there.
Right. Anyway.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So yeah, that's just a unique prayer on the part of Jesus. He's not only
Yeah.
praying for the disciples to strengthen them after he's gone, and to strengthen the believers after he's gone. He's saying this seems like almost like a very human moment for Jesus
Right.
in a ministry that isn't full of very many human moments.
Yeah. It's a very, like, basically it's the Lord saying, I know what's going to happen.
I know.
And if there's any other way, please. But if not, like, look at, I am submissive to your will.
This is like the final 3 minutes of a football game, where it's just like not just a normal football game.
This is the Chiefs game.
This is like a
Yeah.
final 3 minutes of close
This is
scoring Super Bowl.
this
And
is Patrick
everybody-
Mahomes to Mecole Hardman. Like,
Exactly. It's just like I am.
okay, that's a terrible comparison.
That's a terrible comparison.
But I understand, like, the stress here, like, it's a very, very human moment.
Right.
And, I mean, you see a few of them, like, when he needed to be fed after lasting 40 days.
Right. Or when he
Um,
wept when Lazarus
oh, yeah,
died.
Jesus wept. There's a few other moments, like,
Right.
um, oh, what else? Okay, like when he gets his feet washed and everything, or like when he's sitting at the table with the Gentiles and
Right.
everybody else that they didn't like.
Uh-huh.
It's like he was just wanting a
A meal.
meal and wanting to sit down and have a chat with people.
Right.
Like, it's weird. Like,
Or-
Jesus is still a person.
Right.
Yeah.
Or when he took a nap on the boat.
Boy, if I were Jesus, I'd be so annoyed, though.
I would be too.
Oh, man. If I were Jesus, I'd be like, I'm literally God, and you're over here belly aching.
This isn't even a storm. It's a light rain, and you're sitting here.
The thunder's not even here. Like, it's over there. And
He's just like, oh, fine, peace, be still.
it's kind of hilarious the way that it's written. It's almost like he's annoyed. Like, he just comes out and he's like, all right, shut up. And then it goes back to bed.
I know, right? He must have been so annoyed.
Man, I'd have been so mad. I
I'd
would
have
have just been like, if lightning came down and struck you guys and I saw y'all in heaven, I would send you back just to resuscitate you, just to show you how mad I am at you right now.
Right. Anyway, but yeah, it's just
I wonder if he did that to Peter a few times.
probably that might be
Peter
slightly
just has like lightning scars.
that might be slightly heretical, but anyway, but yeah, it's a human moment for Jesus that we don't get to see that often. Of him just like, I don't want this to happen, but
Right.
nevertheless, I'm gonna let it happen
Right.
because I know it's your will. And the reason I made the football comparison is these are, if there was a timer like over Jesus's head, or where it said you have X days or X years, X days, X hours, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Giving him a time,
Right.
basically a timer till his death. It's down to a matter of hours.
Yeah. Like, literally, whatever's happening, he's not going to get any rest. Like, there's no more delaying it.
This is
Not that he did delay it, but, like, there's no more mental delay. You know what I mean?
there's nothing he can do to stop.
Like, it is going to happen.
Right. Like, there are several things in our lives that we know are going to happen, like old age, whatever. It's Jesus has the consciousness of saying, oh gosh, I am on the edge of this happening to me.
Yeah.
I don't want it to happen, but nevertheless, I'm going to let it because I know what is good, what is right. And then he just prays for everybody else. He's just like, okay, now that I'm done praying for myself, which is weird to think about Jesus praying for himself, but he does.
No, he does. I mean, how many times do we pray for ourselves?
I know.
I mean, he prayed for himself a few times.
Yep.
So, but there's another human moment that I was just thinking about. If you keep reading through Luke 22, Peter,
Right.
when the rooster crows, like,
Right.
God didn't even have to like say anything. He just like turned and looked at Peter,
Right.
and Peter knew.
Peter knew.
Peter knew.
Peter knew.
He went out and wept bitterly.
So, yeah, that's another aspect. So, if you remember back to season 1, this is the last year's Easter episode.
Yeah.
So that's part 1-ish of our Easter series. I don't know if we're gonna do anything with that, but
we can do stuff.
I mentioned during the Christmas episodes that Christmas and Easter are gonna kind of be the like they're gonna be multi-year, multi-part episodes where we're just gonna every year around Christmas and Easter time, we're just going to talk about them. So
That's
get
right.
used to
That's
it.
what's gonna happen. It's just gonna.
So
Yeah.
it might get repetitive. We might have guests on. We'll see.
I'm okay
anyway.
with the repetitive stuff, honestly.
But and like right after this prayer, you mentioned it earlier. Right
Mhm.
after this prayer right after this prayer session, I should say,
Right.
is when he gets betrayed. He's in there praying. I wouldn't be surprised if he was praying for Judas himself to just like, Lord, if it's not too late.
Well-
If it isn't, it's not recorded, but I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Jesus said, Lord, if it's not too late for him.
Well, he probably already knew it was too late.
Probably. Which is probably why it isn't recorded.
Yeah. Well, I think the point of no return
For Judas.
for Judas, it has been hotly debated, and I've had hot takes on that, and I've
I
gone
don't
back
know.
and forth on even just that. I almost want to say that the moment that he stepped into the chamber and said, "I have betrayed innocent blood," is
Yeah.
when it was too far.
Right.
Because he doesn't say Jesus is God. He says, "I betrayed innocent blood." But
Oh.
then he gets thrown out by Caiaphas and all the chief priests and whatever, and then it shows very clearly who's his God is the chief priests and
If it's
all of them.
not at that moment in particular, I think
Right.
it is very, very shortly after.
or before maybe even. I mean, some people
Or-
even say it's this right here.
Some people say. I don't hold to that because let me tell you all, he felt remorse. Judas felt remorse. Which
Kinda.
well it
Kinda.
said-
He did. He did.
He
yeah.
did. He felt remorse. The only reason you're saying kinda is because he didn't repent, which is a different thing.
Okay. No.
He didn't
Yeah. Okay.
He didn't fully
I got you.
repent.
Yep.
He
I agree.
felt remorse.
I agree.
Which I think it's just a stepping stone. Is you feel the guilt of what you've done,
Right.
then you're like, "Whoa, crap! What do I do now?"
Right.
And if it's not when I betrayed innocent blood, throwing the money,
Right.
30 pieces of silver on the ground in the
Right.
temple, it is very shortly after because between that point and when Jesus goes to the cross, Judas has hung himself.
Right.
So between that point and when Judas hung himself, I think the decision to hang himself is the point of no return. Whenever that was.
Well,
I think that's
it could have been. I'm trying to find it.
Right.
Oh man, where is it? It's in John.
Right.
Oh boy, I think it's in John anyway. Maybe it's in Luke. Oh man. Maybe it is in Luke. Maybe I'm tripping.
Anyway, while you're looking for that, I want to talk about the events leading up to Judas's hanging and the crucifixion.
Oh, it's got to be in Luke. 'Cause Acts also starts with it.
Here's the thing, and I know we said this during the Easter episode last year.
Mm-hmm.
The events surrounding Jesus's arrest, conviction, and execution is a legal tangle that would make a knot look like child's play.
Yeah.
Because here's a summary of what happens. So Judas Iscariot is basically the first bribed witness against Jesus, if you think about it. He is the first bribed witness, which,
Yes.
at least by our courts today, you're not supposed to do.
Nope.
And if I remember right, that's even frowned upon in Jewish law.
Mm-hmm.
And so Judas is the first bribed witness, and for all intents and purposes, all Judas does is identify Jesus.
Right.
So he's not even a false witness per se. He's just the guy that betrayed him for money, which isn't necessarily any better. So to summarize the events, or what's happening, then after they get Judas,
I'm listening.
the first bribed witness. Well, if you're not, they are. So after they get the first bribed witness in Judas, they then illegally, by Jewish law, try Jesus at night.
Yeah, you can't do that. Oh, it's Matthew 27.
Nathan, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong. According to my memory, Jewish law is very clear that you're supposed to hold all trials during sunlight.
You're absolutely correct. It is supposed to be during sunlight. Yes, you're correct.
So,
yep.
Jesus' initial trial is
A throwaway.
A throwaway.
It's a throwaway.
Then they hold, because they've already sentenced him. They've already said that Jesus has to die. They have already sentenced Jesus. So before he even gets a fair trial, he is already sentenced to death.
Like, they just want him dead. Like,
They want him dead.
It's just a premature
It-
lynching. That's what it is.
it-
Like, they
yeah.
just want him dead.
They want
That's
him
all
dead.
they wanted. Well, they got their goal.
They got their goal, but they didn't.
But at what cost?
Exactly.
Their
So-
eternity?
So they want Jesus dead, and so they try him. They find him guilty. I think just after sunrise, if I remember right, they hold a trial. They hold the trial where
Mhm.
they basically just, okay, we decided this last night. You're guilty. You're
Right.
You're gonna die. They
Right.
take him to Pilate, and Pilate's like, what's the charge? And they're like,
Right.
So Pilate's just like, I'm annoyed with you. Go see Herod. Herod's like,
Mhm.
I'm annoyed with you. Go see Pilate.
Right.
That's the one. I think that's the one good thing Herod does. Is he's like, you got all. Herod's a special case. That's another episode.
There's like 3 Herods, and they all
Right.
sucked.
They all sucked.
But Pilate is an interesting character. We've
Right.
talked about him plenty of times,
Right.
but
He's an interesting
Yeah.
character.
I don't think we got time for him, though.
We'll do a Pilate centric episode.
Do you want me to
eventually.
transition?
If you want to,
We're at 42, so.
if you want to, you can. But I'm not. I'm gonna keep going with
All right,
this.
you keep rolling. You keep
I'm
rolling.
gonna keep going with this for a little bit longer. So
I found the passage, by the way.
right. The trial is unfair. They didn't even bring. So separation of church and state has been a thing now. So the
Right.
religious leaders have already tried and convicted this man. They bring him to the civil government and can't even bring up a legitimate charge on him.
Yeah, literally, Pilate was like,
What's the charge? And they were
he's
like,
innocent.
and then
I want to know what God said to him, though.
I don't know.
Because, like, he pulls him aside.
I don't know.
And then Pilate says, like, he washed his hands clean of the whole thing. I actually have
So,
a
and-
freaky view that Pilate got saved.
And imagine
But-
what Jesus is feeling like. He's being bounced around like a pinball. Just like, go see this person, go see this person, go see this person, go see that person, go back to that person.
That had to have been torture for him because he knew
Mhm.
what was going to happen.
It's torture. He's just like, let's just get this over with. Just
like,
kill me.
Just
get it-
put me on the cross.
and
Like, that's.
and-
I would have been so annoyed.
I would. And I think it's after his second trial with Pilate, where Pilate's just like, okay, I don't know what to do with you.
Right.
He gets illegally beaten to the point where he's not even recognizable as a human.
Right.
He gets beaten and tortured. His beard is plucked out, which is painful. I know.
Right.
And then the indignity. Pilate parades him out and prays out Barabbas, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Who do you want?" And they were like, "We want Barabbas." Dang, dude, your own people don't want you. They want murdering, plundering.
That would be horrible. Didn't Barabbas go back to jail after that?
It's not recorded what happened to Barabbas. This is like the only mention of
Dude,
him.
if I were Barabbas, I'd be like jumping up and down,
But
A, praising God that I got out of prison, and then
But-
B, begging him for forgiveness.
I'm pretty sure Barabbas was just like in the back end a week later.
I mean, he might have been. I don't know.
We don't
but-
know what happened to Barabbas. Anyway,
All right.
then after that, he gets sent to the cross
Mm-hmm.
where he's already bleeding at this point.
Bleeding.
profusely.
His guts are borderline near hanging out. He just got
He's-
whipped 39 times,
Right.
with a cattail.
He has to.
So he's
So-
lost most of the skin on his body at this point.
Right. So he has to carry this cross, which I don't know this for sure, but those crosses probably weren't well sanded at all.
No,
So
they're
Not only-
freaking trees.
not only is he carrying this cross, but he's. I mentioned to this to the kids, one of the kids, his eyes grew big, and he's like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, he had to carry that thing.
He had to carry it. So
that thing
while
was
he's
a monster.
while his guts are dang near spilling out, splinters are making their way into his open wounds,
Yep.
and not to mention, he gets up to Golgotha. The pain. Those nails aren't exactly small.
They're like rail ties.
They're rail ties.
But the
So-
crazy thing with that is that it didn't break a bone.
Right.
So they had to
Right.
actually be kind of skinny.
They were probably skinny, but they were probably very, very long.
That's kind of what I look at. 'Cause like I forget what passage in Isaiah it is, but it actually says the bones can't be broken. But
Right.
that's how they did it with
Right.
like so the way that they crucify people, you guys are going to think this is crazy. The way they actually did it is not at all what you see in your statues or your pictures of it and everything. Those are totally wrong. What they do is that they take your feet, and instead of putting it over the top like we see, it actually puts your feet on each side of the trunk,
Ooh.
and then they nail in. And so they actually nailed into the webbing between like the knuckle of his big toe and the next knuckle over, like somewhere in that area they would have had to nail in. And then they put a nail. The way that they mount the arms was they wrap the arm around the tree, so your hand's like this, and you've got the tree going right through. So the tree's right here, your arm is wrapped over, and then they nail through this side,
Right.
either in the hand area or in the wrist area. And so, like,
It's-
you see the pictures of Jesus with like the hole in the hand. That's wrong. It's more like the wrist.
Exactly.
Um,
And here's the thing.
but hold on. I'm not quite done. Almost done.
All right.
How does a death on the cross work? It's asphyxiation, which is crazy. It's
It's not-
self-asphyxiation. It's self-torture.
yeah, exactly. It's not normal asphyxiation. It's not like what we see popular hangings. Like
No,
where-
it's like an actual
Where they put it-
internal.
where they put a noose around your neck and then drop you.
No, 'cause then you knock out. They want it
Right.
to be painful, so what they do, they bend your legs.
This is torture. you
This
know,
is actual torture, like progressive, agonizing pain and torture. They
and
bend your legs, and they kind of put you in a slouching position, so your body's collapsing in on itself.
right.
And so the only way you can get a breath of air is if you push up to get a breath. But when
You're-
you
you're not
push
only-
up, you're digging those nails that they put in your feet and in your wrists even further in. So if you don't die of asphyxiation right away, you will have tetanus.
Right, because those nails were probably reused.
Probably.
So
It's disgusting to think about.
it's disgusting.
That's what our Savior did, though.
It's torture. Because if you look, like in popular movies nowadays, it's
Uh-huh.
when they say you're going to be hung by the neck, standard rope around the neck, pull the lever, trapdoor falls, you
Right. It
Yeah,
breaks
the-
your neck. You're basically knocked out right away.
breaks your neck,
And
you're
if your neck
out.
doesn't break, then it's either very herniated and it's going to be a painful death, but it'll only last a minute.
Right. This is several hours, and
Many hours, yeah.
this is for Jesus. It was several hours. For other people, this was days. Like
Yeah.
literal days
Yeah.
on end. Of, I need a breath. I'm gonna push up on the nails of my feet, and
Uh-huh.
pull up on the nails in my hands.
He was up there for how many hours? 6?
Because I think they put him on around 9. I think is the common belief, and then he dies around 3.
Yeah. Let me look it up. I just want to make sure I get it right.
Right.
Yeah, 9 to 3. So it's been 6 hours.
Right. And this is what Jesus is doing. So this isn't just like physical torture either. This is torture for Jesus specifically.
Mm-hmm.
For Jesus and only Jesus. No other crucified person
Mm-hmm.
had to experience what Jesus went through, y'all. Let me go through the other parts of torture. This is emotional torture,
Right.
because these aren't just like your run of the mill. Oh, this is just a Roman being a Roman. Like, he's a Roman, I'm a Jew. This is business between us.
Right.
He's mocking me to mock me. These are his people. These are people he's probably known openly. People who have followed him openly,
Yep.
mocking him.
Yep.
And there are people who don't even know him that are mocking him.
Yeah. Well, why do you think God says, "Forgive them, Father. They don't know what they do." They
Right.
literally didn't know what they
They-
were doing.
They didn't
Like, there was people in that crowd that probably
had no
had
idea.
never even heard of this guy.
Right.
They were just like, "Oh yeah, crucify. We want to see." You know, people back then were brutal, man.
Right.
Like the Colosseum. Are you kidding me?
Right. Right.
Like, they were ready to kill people for fun. So I mean, there's so many facets to it.
Right.
I would have.
and
I don't know if I'd want to be there or not, but it would definitely give me a lot more context. You know what I mean?
I'm going to touch on one more facet.
I got one more thing, and then after you, and then I think we'll have to end it.
And I'm going to touch on the spiritual torture that Jesus had to be under.
Oh my goodness!
Because, okay, so it says that the Father, it said that the Father had to turn his face away, which is emotional.
That's an emotional response.
That's emotional.
That's not a condemnation. That's emotion.
That's an emotional response. So, it's a double whammy here. It's both emotional torture of of Jesus being fully aware
right.
of his dad turning his back on him,
Right.
and him crying out, "Father, Father, where art thou?" He's saying,
Mm-hmm.
this is such an interesting thing. This is okay. This is gonna be the Zach King translation for a
Right.
minute. Jesus is basically saying, "Daddy, Daddy, I want you." He's crying out for his dad.
Right. Yeah. No, literally crying out for his father.
He's crying out. He's saying, "Daddy," and his dad can't help him.
every form of pain. I mean, seriously, God
And-
died. That in and of itself is enough pain. Like,
And the other part of that double whammy is it's spiritual torture, because
Yeah.
Jesus is God, so he's a part of the Godhead.
yeah.
So the other, I'm assuming the Spirit was there as well,
Uh-huh.
and the Spirit would have probably turned his back as well.
Well, it doesn't record that,
It doesn't
but I mean,
record that.
it's fairly, you know.
Well, I don't know, but to be separated from the rest of yourself, or part of yourself, think about that.
That's not supposed to happen.
That's not
Yeah.
supposed to happen. You're not supposed to be fractured, and yet he was.
Yeah, he was totally fractured. God was completely just. I mean, it's weird to say God was in pieces, but I mean, he was like.
He was in pieces.
That's the most amount of agonizing pain.
right. And to
But-
have his mother there watching too. I'm sorry.
Oh, dude. Mary is a beast. If
Right.
I were Mary, everybody would be dead. Like,
No.
dude, Mary is
I'd
like.
walk straight up to Caiaphas and backhand him
Oh,
into the sun.
I would. if I were Mary Magdalene, I'd be out there with the chainsaw. I would literally say, "Son, you have to listen to me. Give me a chainsaw from the future.
Give me
We're
the most
we're,
painful
we're fixing
futuristic.
this.
Give me the most painful futuristic weapon you can.
I want a tank. You wanted that veil ripped in half? Don't worry, I'll
The
do that real quick.
Our entire temple's going up.
You wanted the veil gone, bro? The whole thing's about to pop off. That's what I would have been like. I'd have been pissed. I'd have been running around. I'd have been freaking Rambo.
She's like, ah! Die, you fools!
But in all seriousness, though, I mean, she probably wanted to do that.
She wanted to do that.
But
Yeah.
here's something that's crazy, though. It's not like Caiaphas and all them didn't know who God was.
Right.
Because you get to Matthew 28.
Right.
After Jesus rises again. Well, actually, the end of 27, Pilate sends a bunch of people over to, like, guard that tomb.
She's like, you guys guard the tomb.
Yeah.
I know. Pilate has to be so annoyed with
if I were Pilate, I'd just be like, I quit everything.
Just like, send a letter to Caesar. Just
All
like,
right.
send someone else, please.
I'm going to start in verse 27 because I want to start in verse 27.
Right.
Chapter 27, verse 62. So the next day, the day after the preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered together with Pilate and said, Sir, we remember that when he was still alive, that the deceiver said, notice the words they used, the deceiver.
The deceiver.
After 3 days, I'm going to rise again. Therefore, give orders for the grave to be made secure until the third day. Otherwise, his disciples may come and steal him away and say to the people, he has risen from the dead. And the last deception will be worse than the first. Pilate said to them, You have a guard. Make it as secure as you know how. And they went and made the grave secure, and along with the guard, they set a seal on the stone. So basically, Pilate said, Go away.
Go away. Just leave me alone, please.
I would have, oh man, if I were Pilate. But then the resurrection happens. And then you get 28 verse 11. Now, when they were on their way, some of the guard came into the city and reported to the chief priests all that had happened. And when they had assembled, by the way, this is everything that happened with Jesus and Mary Magdalene,
right,
and the other Mary, and everything else that went on in that time. Didn't they all pass out too?
The woman.
No.
The guards did, yeah.
Yeah, the guards did. So
the guards saw the hand and were like,
they knew what was up. So Matthew 28:11. Now when they were on the way, some of the guard came into the city and reported to the chief priests all that happened. And when they had assembled with the elders and consulted together, they gave a large sum of money to the soldiers. And then said, You are to say, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. If this should come to the governor's ears, we win him over and keep you out of trouble. And they took the money and did as been instructed. And this story has been widely spread among the Jews, and it is to this day. Dude, they knew who God was, and they actively rejected him. They actively fought against him and even lied.
This isn't even okay. So you could give the Pharisees a pass for everything before this.
Some of them.
From a certain point of view,
Some
I'll
of them.
say.
This is
From a certain point of view. Because if Jesus wasn't who he said he was, the Pharisees would be well within their right, and I'd say they'd be morally and legally obligated to remove him by whatever means necessary.
But Caiaphas knew. Knew.
This is the turning point where you say,
Yep.
No, you absolutely 100% knew who he was, and now you're actively rejecting him.
No question at all.
Right.
All right.
So
we got to outro this thing, man.
Outro. I don't know if next week's episode is going to be a live episode or not. But I want to talk more about the resurrection. How about you, Nick?
Oh, I want to talk more about the resurrection. There is so much there, man.
So we'll try and get the resurrection episode out pretty quickly.
We'll get it there.
We'll get it there.
Don't worry.
But it's amazing. I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Including the guards' reactions. This is pretty funny.
The guards' reactions is hilarious. Like, they were just like,
nah, I'm out. Bro.
I mean, what else could they do?
It's like the old Windows 98.
Like Windows XP shutdown.
It's like, just like, oh no, I'm done.
Yeah. Dude, that would have been crazy.
That would have been crazy. And of course, we're gonna talk about like all the events like right after, found out what the Angels did.
Right.
Angels are pretty cool, dude.
The Angels are dope. Hey guys, links.
Yeah, links in the description.
Spotify, Patreons.
Patreon.
You know what to do.
Share this with your friends.
Share it all over the interwebs.
Say hey.
Embed it on your websites.
Say hey, these guys are pretty cool.
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok even. Before they ban it.
Yep.
Yeah, I know.
Your mom's weird particle board thing in her office.
Your local cafe. Everything. Everywhere.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Peace.
See you guys later.
Love you.